Alright, welcome back guys. Today I'm going to go in order. All the lessons are going to go in order of writing importance or frequency of the types of questions that come out. And today's lesson is going to be on subject and verb agreement. I'm sure for some of you this may be really elementary, but even if you know it, I think it's good to be watching the video to see like prepositional phrases and everything else that interfere with the question. So let's look at the most basic sentence over here. This one, it says the dog are black. I know it's kind of hard to read because you probably right away want to say the dog is black, right? Because dog is singular and requires a singular verb, so it should be are, right? Next question says the dog, which is a subject here, and the cat, another subject, is hungry. Well, is the verb, right? Here's the thing though, this is wrong because it says one dog plus one cat is hungry. I mean, both of them are hungry, so it should be, they. Just combine those two. When you see and, just combine it. Okay? So they what? Is hungry? No, it should be they are hungry, right? Alright, that's another basic one. We'll do a little bit more complicated question. This one, see if you could find an error, if there is an error, right? So first, just look for all the subjects, or not the subjects, look for all the nouns. If you don't know what the operative subject is, especially since there's like dependent clauses, or I think it's also known as a subjunctive clause, find all the nouns and see what noun is actually operative for the sentence. Remember, the most important thing in any reading and writing question is probably identifying the subject and the verb, because what makes up a sentence, right? What makes up anything? You need a subject. What did the subject do? Something. Subject and verb, right? That's the most important thing when you want to decipher hard sentences. So let's look at this one. This one says, dog, the dog that went to Pets R Us. This is another noun. A prominent pet store, noun. North Korea is a noun. Animals, noun. And Kim Jong-un is a noun, right? Now, next, find the verbs. Right? Find the verb. So this one says went is a verb, freed is a verb, and aggravating could be a verb over here, although it's actually acting as a modifier, right? So let's look at this. Okay? What is the main idea of the sentence? The main idea of the sentence is the dog. What did this dog do? Not that went to Pets R Us. That is just simply describing what kind of dog, right? This dog freed the animals, freed all the caged animals. That's the main idea of the sentence, right? Subject, verb, that is operative over here. I'll explain everything else. Article, the, which is definitive to this dog, right? The dog that went to Pets R Us. What is that describing? This dog. And what did that dog do? It went to Pets R Us, right? And what is Pets R Us? This is what's known as an appositive. It redescribes a noun next to it. Right? A prominent pet store. A prominent pet store, it's Pets R Us. They're kind of interchangeable, but in this case, the extra info, as I like to call it, is this part over here. A prominent pet store. Right? You don't need this part over here. Main idea is freed all the caged animals. Right? Aggravating the surly vindictive leader Kim Jong-un. Right? So, what happened? This act of freeing the dog, whatever this dog did, aggravated this guy, right? Kim Jong-un. You could check if this is a modifier or not by reversing it. So you could say something like, aggravating the surly vindictive Kim Jong-un, comma, the dog freed, right? Freed the animals, right? Freed the animals. You could kind of check. This is just simply modifying what this dog did in this whole sentence, right? So the main point is simply to look for the subject and then the verb, and then you could probably solve all questions. In this case, there is no error, right? There is no error because the dog freed. That's the main idea. I simply made the sentence longer because it could be a little bit more confusing. Now let's look at another sentence. Okay? So this one is going to be a lot more tricky. Alright, let's do this harder one now, right? So hopefully it's not too hard. But Let's look at this. So this one says South Korea, the home of size Gangnam style, is one of the largest producers of kimchi and kimchi derivatives, traditional fermented Korean side dishes made of vegetables with a variety of seasonings, most of which is consumed there and in Japan. Okay, really, really long sentence, but you know, you don't need to really be worried about it. You're gonna learn to, you know, take apart all these sentences later. It's grammar, I think, you know, really, really logical, but because of so many exceptions, we just can't apply general rules to everything, right? But let's look at this. It says, South Korea, the home of size Gangnam style. This is again in a positive, right? So it's not the main part, and there's nothing wrong with that. So let's take that out. It says, South Korea is, so this is the subject, and this is the verb, right? Is one of the world's largest producers of kimchi and kimchi derivatives. That's the main idea of the sentence, really. That's it, right? Everything else, you know, it's modifiers, right? But there's nothing wrong in this part of the sentence. South Korea is one of the largest producers, right? But there is something wrong with the sentence, so let's read on, right? Derivatives, traditional fermented side dishes made of vegetables with a variety of seasonings, most of which is consumed there and in Japan. This is what's wrong right here. Most means many. Many of what? Not these things. This is, again, a modifier. It's a, I don't want to say modifier. It's in a positive, which can re-describe a noun, right? So, it's one of the largest producers of kimchi and kimchi derivatives. So, these things are plural. Kimchi, one, and kimchi derivatives, two, and way more than two, because it says derivatives, many. Right? So most of which is consumed, though. It should be most of which are consumed there and in Japan. Okay? A lot of kids actually think there's nothing wrong with the sentence, right? Because if you really check the basic operative subject and verb, it's correct. But there's other subject and verbs. Well, these are not really subject and verbs that are main idea, because which refers to these things before. But it's still wrong, and SAT will give you errors like this. Sometimes they'll even give you inverted questions, which basically means that they put the subject in the back and the verb in the front. For example, they would say, there were one people. I know that sounds really, really weird, but that sentence can actually get more complicated, and they can try to trick you, right? Or not can, they will. Right? So in this case, the error is this part over here, most of which, and which is referring to kimchi, not seasonings, right? Most of which is consumed, no, is are consumed.